Hey everybody, welcome to WB Roundtable episode 151. My name is Kyle, coming to you from Jackson, Michigan, doing WordPress stuff for easy digital downloads. And I'm joined by somebody I've wanted to get on the show for just like forever. One of the people I admire more than anyone else, and one of the people that I think is super interesting in this WordPress community, done a bunch of amazing things. We're talking to Mel Choyce today. So welcome to the show, Mel.
Hello.
Thank you for coming and joining me. I am stoked about our discussion today.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Should be pretty cool. Mel has done a lot of really awesome things in this space. She's been contributing to WordPress for quite a while now in a variety of capacities, particularly is a standout designer, really responsible for pretty much anything that looks good in WordPress.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, that's how I feel about it. I'm just a guy with an opinion. That's all. So we're going to talk all about that stuff. Before we do, let's share our quick picks of the week. This is just a part of the show where we come across something new and we say, that's worth sharing. And for me, there's someone recently shared with me a post that is not new, but it's new to me. And I love it. I don't know. There's a chance that you may have read it, but I enjoyed it very much. And it's called Your App Makes Me Fat. You ever heard that one?
No? I haven't heard of that, no.
It's really good. It's on a site called SeriousPony.com. It's someone's blog. And
okay. I know Serious Pony.
Yeah. So it's an old post, lengthy one, just all about good examples of the cognitive drain that we put on users whenever we introduce anything extra at all, and taking great care to minimize the effort it takes for users to interact with our apps and our software. And I'm oversimplifying it, not putting it in quite as clear terms, but I recommend reading this article. It's enlightening and inspiring, and this is the kind of thing that I like to read before I do any design work or when I'm working on software and iterating on a user experience. Reading stuff like this just gets me in the right zone. So that's a good article. Do you have anything to share, Mel?
I actually feel like I have read this. It's from 2013, so quite a while back.
Yeah.
But definitely a good reread.
Yeah, it resonates still. Sure. Anything new your way that you feel like sharing?
I feel like since WordCamp US happened, I've been in kind of a haze. So I'm not sure that I have anything new just yet, but I'm hoping for things to kick off in the new year.
Yeah, that's totally cool. That's right around the corner. Oh my goodness, I am looking forward to it.
It's like the year's already over at this point. It's kind of ridiculous.
I know, it's crazy. We think we have 12 months, but really, you feel like the year's over when December starts somehow. Yeah.
I think once American Thanksgiving happens, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get anything done. Just give up. Okay, well, let's talk about you, Mel. And
sure.
In just in case, I don't know, there's an off chance that anybody watching now or in the future might not know you and your life story. So let's help them out just a little bit.
Sure.
Let's go back in time just a little to before you were working with Automattic and designing all the cool WordPress stuff and just being a leader in this awesome community. And maybe before even you had a job in tech, let's talk about your early life when you wanted to do something. There's something you wanted to accomplish with your life, and you said, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. And you set on a path. What was that like, and what was that path?
Sure. So it actually comes down to my my financial aid package in college. It took a while to get settled. So I ended up picking my work study job weeks after everybody else. And so all the dining hall jobs were gone, all the other normal first year work study jobs were gone. But there was an opening to be a professor's assistant, and part of it required some graphic design work. And so I was like, cool, I can do that. And I applied for this work study job. I got it. I was really, really bad at the assistant part. I have such a bad attention to minute details. So when I would photocopy hundreds of pages, there were times that I missed some. So that part of the job wasn't that great, but I did get to work on this professor's press kit. So I got to do a like a print portfolio and a web portfolio for her.
Mhm.
And that was probably the first time that I thought like, hey, I can actually like do this stuff as a job. It'd be pretty cool.
What university was this?
Smith College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and had you had any experience doing any design work before that?
A lot of it on my own. So I learned how to make websites at a pretty young age. I made a lot of like really crappy HTML sites when I was a kid. Had a reboot fan site for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so been into web stuff probably for the last 20 years now.
Yeah. Well, that's always fun. The projects that we made when we were getting started is just um, always
Yeah,
amusing.
there's at least
But
one of them that still kind of exists, but I feel like the images are all broken at this point.
oh, wow, that's impressive. I
Yeah.
I can't do. I don't think that is the case for me anyway. Probably anything that I learned on in the earliest days, probably not there anymore.
Yeah, most of my Angel Fire sites are gone.
That's too bad. That's too bad. So you decided that this design thing, it's kind of cool, and you got the knack for it. You could do it professionally, maybe. What was the next step?
Yeah, so after that year, I was allowed to get like a regular work study job because first years were usually pretty limited in what we could do. So I worked at the computer labs and I did a lot of tech support for classrooms and then like just in general in the computer labs. And I ended up just doing that work study job up until I graduated. And it was just actually like really just tremendous in what I learned. Because we had to do like some audio video stuff. We had to do basic like web work, application work. And since I did it for so long, like the staff just kept giving me like interesting new projects to do, especially over the summer because I like lived and worked there over the summer.
Hmm.
So I got to do all these like really cool things with technology. And it definitely like I think set me on a path to just continue doing technology for hopefully the rest of my life.
That's cool. Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds like quite a privilege to be able to
Yeah.
take advantage of that.
It was
Uh,
great too because I got a lot of mentorship. So like they'd show me how to do things before setting me off to do it. So I feel like I got like a breadth of experience doing just a bunch of different tech things.
did this have anything to do with what you were studying?
Nope, I was actually a government major.
Well, I asked that because it's a consistent theme uh,
Yeah,
for everybody. We all fell into this accidentally, almost absolutely.
yeah.
But
When I started off, I was going to do a government and an East Asian studies double major, and then I went a year without doing any art, and I was like, oh my god, I can't ever do this again. And so I started taking art classes again,
wow,
and ended up declaring a studio art minor eventually. And then my senior year, we started a new minor that was arts and technology, and I ended up fulfilling all of the requirements by accident. So I ended up graduating with a minor in arts and technology just because I had kind of forged that path for myself just on my own.
sure. Wow. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. Just jumping into college, guessing at what you like, figuring things out along the way, changing it up by the end. Maybe you figured things out a little bit. Then you jump into the workforce. So what was next post college? How'd things go?
So my junior year, I think maybe summer after my junior year, I started interning for a local web company. And so I picked up some basic client experience and actually like made some live sites for people. And it kind of went from there. So I kept at that for a while. The internship became a job. That job became a different job. I did a lot of contract and part-time work in my junior year, my senior year, and then like a year after college. Um, and then eventually I did find full-time work, which was really great at first, but it was very print heavy, and I actually didn't really have a lot of mentorship at that point, which is like I think at that point in my career what I really needed. And it got stressful and overwhelming, and I was eventually fired.
Wow.
So yeah, it was I think an important experience for me to have, a very humbling experience. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. So pretty different environment, not a perfect fit for you, but
yeah,
a learning.
definitely not.
Okay.
I think they realized by the time they fired me, they probably shouldn't have hired me in the first place, which is fair.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
so I think at that point I realized I really needed to have some guidance and mentorship to really impact my career much more. But
Yeah.
at that
Did
point
that
I
come
was
as like a,
jobless.
like a surprise to you when you like
Oh no,
I
I mean
gotta figure things out?
I felt it coming. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I definitely knew it was going to happen at a certain point.
Okay. Okay. So
So,
you weren't in any crisis or anything like that. It's just I've learned
I mean,
from this and
I
I'm moving,
was it
adjusting.
took me a while to get over it. I was definitely like very upset, very ashamed, very like, oh my gosh, I just got fired from a job, like I'm a loser. It took a bit to get over for sure. And
Wow.
so I tried to find some other local jobs in the area, but they're just like most of the jobs that were around were either like some people who freelanced and occasionally would like pair up with other people, or
Mhm.
a lot of smaller agencies that weren't hiring designers full time. So it seemed to me that it wasn't going to be possible to get a job out there, another one full time.
Wow.
So my girlfriend was working remotely at the time, still is. And so we were like, okay, maybe we'll explore Boston since there were a lot of job opportunities there.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up out here. We moved out like I think 5 years ago now. So I started working at a kind of a crappy little startup. Um, it was definitely like very early stage. It didn't work out though. I stayed there I think for like maybe 7 to 9 months or something, before another opportunity came along, to do an apprenticeship in user experience and interface design. So it would be a 3 month paid apprenticeship. I would work with industry experts for 3 months, do some client work, do a lot of like a lot of one-on-one training. And I was like, oh my god, I have to do this. So like, I really have to do this. It was like exactly what I felt like I needed. So I got my application together for that, did an interview with them, and like really thankfully got accepted into that. Which was actually really great timing because the startup folded like a month into this apprenticeship.
Oh.
Yeah. So it all worked out for me.
Jeez.
Yeah. But this was like the most formative, I think, design experience I had was
Yeah.
working one on one with a bunch of like really amazing people. Actually like working through the problems I was having. Like at that point I felt like I was really bad at color and I was really struggling to use to really like make good color palettes. And so that was something that like I worked one on one with my mentor with, where I had a couple design challenges, where I wasn't allowed to use black or white, and that really helped having somebody like guiding me through kind of these like own issues in my career.
Wow.
Because I definitely like I didn't have a traditional design background or like even like a traditional art background beyond like dry media, essentially like a lot of pencil, a lot of charcoal, stuff
Mhm.
like that. No real like paint or anything. So I wasn't used to color. So like that especially I feel like was something that I really needed a lot of help with.
Well, and you've been drawn to designing software and interfaces. You've dabbled a little bit in other types of design, other
Yeah, it's
media.
since I've been like a web kid for forever, it kind of was inevitable. Like I never worked at a traditional print shop, since I did art, but not really a lot of design in college. I did digital media, but I didn't really do a lot of print stuff. So my career definitely started with web, uh, whereas I feel like a lot of my colleagues had kind of that traditional like print and graphic background before moving on to web. But I feel like I've just been web the whole time.
Do you consider yourself someone who more so took the opportunities that came your way and made the best of your circumstances, or someone who was a little more deliberate and driven and made a choice um, and sought a direction and found ways to make that work, or maybe a balance of the two?
Yeah, definitely a little bit of both. I feel like I'm really good at identifying when those opportunities present themselves, and then like really good at like driving myself towards them. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a mix of the two.
Hmm. Sure, sure. So you had the apprenticeship.
Yeah,
You're
which is
starting to
awesome.
do some pretty cool work and to really learn a lot, like
Yeah,
build an amazing skill set. And how'd this take your career to the next level?
sure. So it definitely gave me the confidence to like feel like a good designer. It was also when MP6 was happening, and so I got involved with
So this would have been
MP6
2000, probably 12, 13, maybe?
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah.
So I was working on that and getting to know a lot of other WordPress designers because of that. And that's when I think I really started to go from just like a casual contributor to like a core contributor where I was doing a lot more core work. I had more responsibility, more tasks. Um, and I kind of knew at that point that I wanted to apply to Automattic. Um, and before that, I definitely didn't have the confidence to, but I think during my apprenticeship, I was like, well, I gotta give it a try now.
Sure.
Especially since I was working with some Automattic designers on MP6 on the
Wow.
like. So I mean, if anyone doesn't know, MP6 was the redesign of the admin where it went from like gray gradients to kind of more of the like the flat design style.
Mhm.
So it was a pretty big project for sure.
It was. Yeah. It was super cool. And it's been that way with minimal adjustment for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since I think 2013.
Yeah. And you were one of the bigger players in that process. I think you were very involved, as I
Yeah, there
remember.
were a team I think of about 8 or 9 of us. Matt Micklick did the most, I think the most of it. Ben Dunkel did a lot of work on the icons, and then I played kind of a supporting role with Dash icons. Um, Johan Asmussen, I don't know actually if I said his last name right, but Johan, who's working on Gutenberg now, was really involved also in MP6. Um, yeah, it was a good team. We had a lot of
Yeah.
really talented people. It was inspiring for me too, because at that point I felt like I was in kind of a transition from like being like an apprentice designer to like a journeyman designer, like
Hmm.
kind of going from like beginner to intermediate, and having some role models there was super helpful for me.
Wow, that's fascinating. I did not know or expect that you, at the time when you were contributing to what was a hugely impactful project, you consider yourself to be still pretty early in your stages of learning. And I wasn't even aware that you weren't with Automatic at the time. How long after did that come about?
So I think in my last month of my apprenticeship, I sent in my application, and then I think probably a couple weeks after it ended, I started interviewing and doing a trial. And my trial, I think, lasted like 6 weeks total.
Mhm.
I was doing some freelance work at the time just to make up some more income. And so I was kind of doing that in my trial at the same time. And then I started in June of 2013. So probably like 2 months between ending my apprenticeship and starting at Automatic.
Sure. That's still a long time ago
I
for
know.
for a company like this.
I'm at like
My
4.5 years now, which is super weird to think about. It's the longest
goodness.
I've been actually anywhere ever, like in my life. Like college was only 4 years. Each like stage of schooling is only like 4 years.
Right.
So yeah,
Uh,
it's been
I don't
big.
know. But that might be I sometimes think that that's maybe a generational thing too. For people of our generation, it is far more unusual to sit in a job for so long.
Yeah.
4.5 years is on the long side.
And I think a lot of that also has to do with like loyalty to employees. And I feel like so many companies these days just like there's no sort of like recip reciprocal loyalty going on. Where like at Automatic, I feel like they
Mhm.
really care about me and kind of take care of me.
Mhm.
And so that definitely makes me want to stay here for as long as I feel like it's beneficial for both of us, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you're, how about roles? You've been there 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Has your role changed a little bit since
Oh, yeah,
you started?
definitely. So I've been a product designer the whole time, although I think I was hired as like design engineer. I don't know. Titles are weird.
Yeah.
Actually, my current title that I've chosen for myself is open sorcerer.
Open sourcer.
Yeah, I like that one.
Super.
Um, so when I started, I was working on kind of the new user experience and what we called New Dash then, which is what eventually would become Calypso. So kind of the like the WordPress.com parts of WordPress.com.
Mhm.
And so I was also on the team that started working on Calypso. And so I did a lot of the like kind of the early concepts along with a bunch of other designers. And then I moved on to a team that was kind of weird in that it did kind of some outreach and clienty type work.
Mhm.
So I was building a lot of sites, which was quite fun for a while. But I think I found that like I find agency work really kind of exhausting.
Oh, oh,
So
oh,
it's
do
I
I
mean
know it?
it's fun to get to like build really cool different stuff and like build these unique websites for people. But
Right.
I feel like it works best. I don't know, when you have like a really strong project manager, a really strong team. And this team that I was on was super new, and I think we were still really kind of trying to figure out what was going on and like how we should structure this and like what kind of restrictions we should have. But I did some cool projects, like the Freer and Sackler Museum. We worked on their website, which I think recently launched. It was a really long term project, and yeah, I did a bunch of stuff there. Eventually, a another new team kind of came about, and I got asked to join that one. And so that team focused on customization, which is kind of
Mhm.
like what has now led me to where I am, working on customization in core. So I spent, I think, about a year and a half on this team, Gravity, um, until Matt was like, "Hey, do you want to get more involved in kind of core leadership in the next year?" And I was like, "Okay, what does that look like?" And I learned about the focuses and that he wanted to do a customization focus. And I think at that point I had been the product designer that had worked the like kind of the most on the topic of customization. So I was like, okay, I feel like this actually does make sense for me to do. So
Oh,
that's how I ended up now on Apollo, which is a team dedicated to working on WordPress.org stuff.
yeah. How it's I have no concept of how large that team is. Are there a lot of people working with you doing other things?
So we now have a dot organization division,
Hmm.
which is a couple teams. We have the team um, that's working on Gutenberg that has like Riyadh and Andrew Duthie and a couple of the other bigger contributors are being given like full time to work on Gutenberg things. Um, there's a team that works on community and events, so a lot of like WordCamp related things and whatnot.
Sure. Right.
And then there's Apollo, which works on core and a little bit of meta. So Apollo, before I joined, did the plugin directory redesign
Hmm.
and the theme directory redesign before that.
Which were awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So you are pretty involved in the contributing process and working on WordPress itself
Yeah.
lately. That's it's. I feel like it's safe to say it's completely different than, and yet probably has a lot of similarities to designing products internally. For WordPress.com, for example.
Mhm.
Um, what are some of those striking differences?
So I feel like you're not kind of protected and sheltered when you're working out in the open like that. There's much more room for misunderstanding and criticism, just because not everyone's coming with the kind of the same level of understanding around a topic or a project that you would when you're working on something internally. Um, there's, I feel like since nobody is really working on it full time, except for like a very small number of people, it's hard to get people like helping out consistently, which I think is our biggest issue with design right now, is that the vast majority of the design contributors are doing it kind of on their own time. So I feel like there's a bunch of core devs who get their time donated by companies, but design doesn't necessarily have the same kind of prestige that core development does. And so working full time now, it's me, Tammy, Yoan is, I think, doing part time now that he's not the design lead. Joshua Wald from XGBP has gotten some of his time donated, which has been so helpful for 4.9. He was able to help out with a lot of the customization things that we did at the beginning of the release, getting a lot of the designs kind of set before we could move forward. So that was super helpful. So yeah, definitely like the lack of resources is a big difference between something internal and then something open source. There's a lot more kind of persuasion that you have to do. A, to get people on board with it just in general, but also B, to convince people to work on stuff with you. So like with 4.9, a lot of the work was done by people whose time was volunteered, like a lot of the bigger projects. And we really struggled with getting people to like contribute to big projects whose time was like their own time. They were just volunteering their time, which is definitely not unexpected, but also, you know, it's hard because we want to get a lot of people involved, but people, you know, they're gonna work on what they want to work on. So
right.
They don't want to work on customization, then like we either need to persuade them or we just need to do it ourselves.
Fascinating.
Yeah. That said, we did end up with a lot of contributors for 4.9. So across the whole release.
Well, that's good. That's always good.
It was exciting.
Yeah. I can hardly even comprehend what it would be like in your position designing for a major project, especially a community-driven project like this. I'm no designer, but I've had my share of experiences turning things into clients that reflected me and my work, and had like one person say, "It's no good. That sucks. That sucks. It looks like, you know, we need to hire a better designer or something." I just like the things that clients say. And that's like one person, and that just like ruins my day or my week or my month sometimes. It's terrible. And that's just one person and a small project. There are thousands of people looking at your work with a critical eye, and you, I mean, your work is fantastic, but you certainly get your share of criticism.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, some of my work is terrible. You know, you do something, you start out, you're like, wow, this is really bad. You work on it some more, you present it, you get feedback like, maybe this isn't the best. But there's just such a big jump from when you start and kind of where you finish, that I actually find a lot of that difficult criticism really helpful. Actually, that's probably the biggest thing I need to learn with core design is kind of letting go of my ego. I think designers in general tend to have kind of egos, especially when we start out. And I really needed to like let go of that. Because I mean, there's people who are just like jerks, but there's plenty of people who have negative feedback where their feedback is like, "Oh wow, like you didn't think of this whole use case." And I'm like, no, I didn't think of this whole use case. Wow, like that's actually really important. So having so many people look at it, like it's definitely, I mean, it definitely sucks when you're like, wow, like nobody likes it. I feel really bad, but it always ends up bringing it to a better place than it was before kind of it got presented to the world.
That is, I don't know, incredible and admirable to be able to look at it that way, to be able to accept that criticism. And I mean
sometimes it's hard. I mean, sometimes I'm like, wow, I feel really bad, or like this person was like didn't need to be this mean about it, but yeah.
That's even when it's even when it's nice, I find it hard to take. Even when like it's completely spot on and delivered as tactfully as possible by my colleagues or peers or clients, still I feel terrible.
Yeah, I feel like
I,
people who make things get really attached to the things that they make.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you labor intensely on some of these things and put a lot of thought into it. And you've been, developing your skill set and experience for years now. And to just put that in front of so many people is it's pretty remarkable and pretty I can imagine it being stressful. I can imagine just processing that feedback be just take a lot of character and just being able to let go. So it sounds like you're already better at it than most people would be, and still working on it, still continuing to improve your ability to process that feedback and take it the way it should be taken. But hard to do. It really is
Yeah,
for any of us.
I think it's been particularly difficult with Gutenberg lately, just because it has had so much negative feedback. I know that Tammy and Yoan have had to do a lot of like community outreach to, because like behind most of the negative feedback is a lot of a really legitimate fears and concerns about the future of WordPress, where Gutenberg's going. And so there has been a lot of really harsh criticism of it. And so I've been, really, really, I don't know if proud's the right word, but like, I've really admired them for how they've kind of taken that feedback in stride and really tried to get down to like kind of the roots of people's fears to figure out how Gutenberg can address those.
The Gutenberg project. I mean, this year in particular has been interesting.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, for sure.
in a lot of ways, and it's like it's almost bringing things out or magnifying things, maybe things that were there, but just like it's amplified now. And
Yeah,
the severity of things that we already had is now just like turned up a few levels. And now it seems like it's getting a little intense. This dialogue, it's rising. It's getting heated in some places. It's getting complicated and messy, and more voices chiming in. Plenty
yeah,
of them not very constructive. Um, a lot of people trying to juggle that, like yourself and Tammy and Yoan. Um, just trying to respond to this as well as possible, bring in all the lessons that have been learned from stuff in the past. But things like it does seem like it's at a level that it's never been quite before, which is
yeah.
surprising because the project is larger than it's ever been before, of course.
But it's definitely felt unique. I feel like MP6 had a lot of feedback, but not nearly to the extent that Gutenberg has. And I mean, we are like fundamentally changing the way that the whole content creation paradigm in WordPress. So it's monumental, and I think it really kind of reached its peak of, I don't know, negativity, passion right before US. And then I think the team really managed to kind of pull things in and address a lot of the concerns right before US. And I think at WordCamp US, there was a lot of excitement at the State of the Word, like watching it getting demoed live and kind of the cool things that you can do now. I think people are starting to turn around a little bit and see kind of what we'll be able to accomplish in the next couple of years building off of Gutenberg.
Yeah. It's remarkable. I mean, there's been buzz topics in recent years where, um, every year it's something different. It's the REST API, it's Calypso, it's this or that. And when you look at WordPress news sources, every other article, every other blog post is about whatever the hot topic of the year is. And definitely this year is Gutenberg for sure. There's no
Yeah.
question. But just more so, like the others were never this never this ubiquitous, never this large, never like everybody feels compelled to write their opinion piece on it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the only one who's held out and not done that yet.
Well, you still have time.
I guess I still have time. At this point, I don't. have any enthusiasm in writing it. I'm just a cheerleader for the project, and
Nice.
definitely demoing it at our local meetups, and teaching people about it as much as possible. Now that we know, without a doubt, this is the direction that we're going, like it or not. And
It's
let's just,
happening.
yeah, it absolutely is. But it's just wild to go to events and see, just everybody's talking about it. We did, my other buddy and I have a Q&A advice podcast that we do, and we're asking people questions for the show, and that's what they're asking about. Everybody's like, oh, what's this? What about Gutenberg? How's it going to affect WordPress? How's it going to affect themes? How's it going to affect page builders? Um, and then Matt, that's almost all that was talked about in the state of the word. And we had the great demo. And then for Q&A after, which is always like, you never know what people are going to ask about.
Yeah.
That's all they asked about.
Yeah.
Like
It was the
every
Gutenberg
question.
show for sure.
Oh. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating, and surprising too. I mean, it's not like there's nothing else to talk about. I mean, this industry is just as complicated as it was a year ago, but now
Yeah.
there's just a single topic. It's completely dominating the conversation.
It was interesting too, because I kind of ignored Gutenberg during 4.9, especially once we hit beta and we were really focusing on getting things shipped and getting the release really tight. And so I'm only just catching up with how much has changed in the past couple months now. And so seeing the demo at WordCamp US was actually like super surprising for me, just because I was like, whoa, I had no idea that Gutenberg was going to do that. So getting really excited about it.
I recall a similar problem that WordPress had a year ago, maybe, or maybe it was more than a year ago, but during the process of developing the REST API, which is a super big project that everyone was talking about, core developers working on the project were dealing with the problem of needing more users, greater testing, more adoption before it being ready to merge into core. But the problem is they weren't getting any, and people were reticent to adopt it until it was ready or in core or something. And Gutenberg obviously is definitely facing the same problem. How do you get people to use it? All those people out there who are busy doing stuff and thinking, I'm gonna get around to doing the Gutenberg thing when it's done.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty risky too, just because things might change. But I also think the people who are first to market for Gutenberg are going to be the ones that end up making the most money.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're probably right on there.
The people who do take the time to especially rethink their plugins to work with Gutenberg, just because there's so many plugins I use right now that like they have kind of like convoluted setups that like can become much simpler and much more intuitive with Gutenberg. It's really the problem that Shortcake, the feature project, was trying to solve.
Sure. Right.
But taking it, a huge leap forward from providing, just providing a UI to like really, making it about the UI. It really does feel design first in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah. So you're really optimistic about this project. This is what you're actively working on right now. Well, actually, this week you told me.
Yeah, I'm doing my support rotation, my annual support rotation this week. But as soon as I'm back in January, I'm going to take 2 weeks off for Christmas and just the end of the year. But I'm going to come back and I'm going to be like 100% on Gutenberg. Well, probably like 80% on Gutenberg, 20% on customization, like just customization features in core. Because I'm not sure if we're going to do we're probably going to do a 4. Not like a really small 4.9.2 before Gutenberg. We were talking about it in the most recent core chat about trying to do like really short point release cycles every, I think 6 to 8 weeks or something. So focusing on much smaller things than a major release and just kind of like pushing them out incrementally. So a little bit of that, but a lot of Gutenberg, especially now that like customization and the editor focus are really going to converge in a lot of ways. So I know that we're gonna work on widgets, I think, first. So before 4.9 really got underway, I ended up doing like a bunch of like V1 widget block designs. And so I'm going to revisit those, see if any of them like just need like a tiny update, if any of them kind of need a rethink. And then, yeah, get widgets blockified.
Cool.
Do some prototyping of like what like page layouts can work like. I know that Matthias has had some really cool ideas, and so kind of extending those to like not just building like really rich posts, but like what could really rich pages look like too.
Right.
So like a little bit of like throwing a little bit of page builder stuff in. Probably not to the same extent that like most page builder plugins do, just because I feel like WordPress should provide kind of the structure, and then I think the page builder plugin should really provide a lot of the like the excitement.
Okay.
So like we don't want to take over most of the like, we don't want to like make them not important. I personally feel like there needs to be a lot of room for page builder plugins to grow on Gutenberg and to do really amazing things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What those amazing things are seems to be escaping a lot of people who are asking these questions.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a lot to show them yet. So I think as there's more that people can see, people are going to get more excited about it and more willing to like hop on board with it.
Sure. Let's segue a little bit to WordCamp US and talk about like how that went this year. This is the third straight year WordCamp US, first time in Nashville. You have any highlights?
Hattie B's hot chicken. Oh my gosh.
That's
so good.
Pretty good. It was pretty hot. And I like hot stuff. That was hot.
I got it mild and I was like, ooh, like this is awesome. I feel like I could have gone up to medium, but I think I would have died if I had done hot.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. It was a really good year, a really good experience. We did the Gutenberg booth, which was almost entirely staffed by volunteers, which was like phenomenal. I think we got like something like 88 user tests throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
Which we're now working on processing. And it was incredible. Just the people who volunteered did so great, and the folks who came by shared a lot of really great feedback. And I really hope that we continue to do these usability testing booths that feature like WordCamp US's, maybe WordCamp Europe, just all the big camps.
That's a pretty awesome idea. That would be cool.
It worked out actually much smoother than I was expecting it to. I was like, oh man, maybe it'll be a disaster. It wasn't a disaster.
Really, it was a big number that was collected. That sounds like that's got to be useful.
Yeah.
At this point, so I'm also curious. That would be something really cool to kind of see if that could be templated and carried on.
Yeah, at other definitely. Events. Would love to see it extend to other WordCamps.
Yeah, there's no reason why not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a pretty good fun event. Everybody's there. It was, I had a super great time. I almost never left the big sponsor room. I didn't, sadly, didn't even make it to a single session except the State of the Word this year.
I made it to a couple, but I missed a lot. Actually, it was funny that the session block that I talked in had two of my friends in the opposite sessions going on at the same time.
Every time.
So I was like, oh man.
That's the worst.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, especially WordCamp US, where it's like, there's just so many really amazing people presenting. You're always going to miss something cool.
That's totally true. Yeah, it really will. And Gutenberg was in the discussion for a lot of those for sure. Yeah. So you've been involved in the community for a long time. We brushed over that, but you did get involved long before you were working at Automattic, and you've been pretty actively participating in a lot of different ways. What's your experience been engaging this community, and maybe some reflections over like being involved for over 5 years?
Yeah.
It's changed a little in that time period. Yeah.
It's been incredible. Honestly, it's been career making for me. I definitely am where I am now because of WordPress and because of my contributions to WordPress. It's opened a lot of doors. I've met the most incredible people I feel like I'm going to be friends with for the rest of my life. And then being able to like see them at WordCamps, it's just it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've made a lot of like strides as a designer that I wouldn't have if I had continued to work at either agencies or smaller companies. Just the diversity of the kind of people that I've been able to like meet and interact with and like work with, and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because it feels like it's been a really long time, but at the same time, it also feels like it's been so short.
Sure.
It's uh it's weird to just kind of like reflect back on how long it's been.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it was like WordCamp in New York City, maybe 2011, that I first started getting interested in getting involved.
Mm.
And then WordCamp Philly, I don't know if it was 20, no, it must have been 2012. I got my first core props.
Well,
And before that, I had done some like some wireframing work, some like light UI work, but I hadn't gotten anything into core. And so I had Aaron Jorbin help me kind of get set up with things and get my patch in during that contributor day. And I feel like once I had that, I like couldn't stop, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Well, um, this community has grown. I mean, it's grown pretty quickly. So 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where we are. If the numbers, I don't even know what the numbers are, but we're at 29% of the web or
Yeah.
whatever it
It's
is right
incredible.
now. We weren't. I don't remember where we were 5 years ago, but it was a lot less. Maybe half that. It could have been. I don't
Yeah. Probably
probably.
at least half that.
Yeah. So this community is considerably larger. Um, how's it changed in that time?
I feel like we're becoming a lot less. I mean, we're still very Western centric, U.S., Canada, and like Western Europe.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's starting to change, especially as a lot of these communities are emerging. Like in India, we have I think a ton of work camps now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
oh man, what country? I think there were a few word camps in Africa. I forget which countries offhand in the past year or two.
Mhm.
And there's been like a lot of communities developing all around the world with through meetups, through word camps, and so we're really getting a lot more global adoption.
Mhm.
And I think our amazing polyglots team has had a lot of to do with that. Getting WordPress translated into so many languages so that it's accessible to anyone around the globe.
Yeah.
Um, and so I definitely see us becoming, we've become more of an international project than we had previously. I'd really like to see that also continue to grow over the next couple of years, just because right now, especially the core committers and the leadership team are still very much like, U.S. and Western Europe.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to start to see us branch out a little bit there and have like a wider array of international contributors in those kinds of leadership positions in core.
Sure. Well, yeah,
Um,
that would be something.
I feel like I've seen a lot of really amazing friendships develop in the past 5 years,
Mhm.
and like continue to develop. So like people who like I remember them meeting this person and now they're like really great friends with them,
Mhm.
uh, and just like making all these amazing connections. People who maybe were freelancing or working for like kind of a small town agency when I first met them, or now are working for like these really incredible places doing really amazing projects with WordPress.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of just a lot of growth that I've seen amongst just the people I've met in the past 5 years. I think because of the opportunities they've gotten through WordPress, and so that's really amazing to me, just to see so many people succeed.
There's always been a very warm, collaborative culture, and I've always been drawn to that. I didn't know anything like it exists until I found it, and once I found it, I said, "I'm sticking around. I'm not going back to anything I experienced before that was different, ever." Um, but sometimes I wonder, do you think this culture can scale if we continue to grow?
I think if people continue to kind of keep core values in mind, So like, I think any successful community needs community moderators. People kind of helping to keep the culture on track, making sure that there are no bad actors, and encouraging people. So I think as long as we have a really solid base of people who are willing to put in the effort to make sure that people feel accepted and supported, we'll continue to be able to scale. Um, I don't know though, in the long run, if we do end up with like a massive influx of new contributors over the next couple of years, I don't know, will we be able to move faster? Will we be able to like take on all these new projects, or will we actually move slower because there's so many hands? I'm not sure.
In that time that you have worked there, Automattic has grown probably fourfold, I would
Yeah,
guess, at
I think
least.
it's like 140, 160 people when I joined, and now we're over 600. So
Sure.
it's been a massive change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Uh,
incredible.
and I think it's actually scaled really well because we continue to keep our teams really small. So if a
Okay.
team gets too big, we'll split it out. And so many of that is support. And
Mhm.
our customer base has grown, and so like the amount of people that we need to support, has gone way up. So
Mhm.
it makes sense for us to continue to scale our support team as large as we have, and even bigger. I know that like one of the goals is just like 24-hour live chat coverage,
Mhm.
um, which we can't do if all of our support people are in the same part of the world. So hiring internationally has been a huge focus for that because we have customers all over the world, so we should have people helping them all over the world too.
Sure.
Um, Yeah, it's been interesting from a design perspective, just because I feel like our design organization has gotten a lot more mature in the
Yeah.
last, especially the last year and a half.
Mhm.
Once we brought on John Maida,
Mhm.
um, and he's really made a lot of like a really big impact on the design core of Automattic.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the first time, we're instead of so when I joined, it was a lot of like maybe one or two designers per team.
Mhm.
And now we have like whole teams of designers, working on different focus areas. So
Yeah.
a lot more collaboration. It's been really great. It's
Wow.
actually one of the things I feel like I'm missing out on working on core is that we haven't kind of had um, the same like movement towards design teams,
Mhm.
just because we have fewer designers working on core. So it's been interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty amazing. I want to be respectful of your time. We're running low a little bit here, so I'll kind of shoot a few wrap up questions here.
Sure.
What are some of the things, outside of work you like to do with your spare time?
So recently, I've been playing a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a PS4 game. It is so good. I just finished the plotline of the DLC that came out recently, and so I have like wrapped up most of the game. But yeah, I feel like most of my time outside of work is spent either playing video games or reading. Those are
Wow.
my two kind of hobbies. And drumming. I've recently,
Oh,
taken up drumming, doing some lessons. It's been super fun.
oh. What made you take an interest in that? Is there something you want to do with this new skill?
So I've like always really liked drums. And I played so much rock band in college, like an excessive amount of rock band. So, I really wanted to like learn how to actually play drums. And so sometime last year, I impulsively just was like, hey, anyone in my local network know any drum instructors? And yeah, I think it'd be super fun to join a band one day.
Oh, yeah.
uh, but yeah, that's kind of a long-term goal.
That's a good
So
goal. That's a good
yeah.
goal.
I've done two performances now. One of which at the Automatic Grand Meetup, which was my first one ever, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Uh, and then like I did a really small one at my local like the like music school that I'm going to.
Just solo performances?
So the one at the Grand Meetup was like a full band. So we had a bass player and two guitar players, like three singers. It was super big group of
Whoa,
people on this one song.
that's
And
cool.
then with the one of my like drum uh, instructor place, they do like a couple performances a year where like the staff will play the various instruments for songs, and then like you can play whatever instrument you're doing for the song.
Wow.
So
That sounds like so much fun.
it's super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we've got enough musicians for that at one of our meetups. We're still a little too small, probably. But yeah,
I'm like
jealous.
super surprised at the number of musicians we have at Automatic. And it's just like continuing to grow the bigger we get.
Huh. Yeah. That's funny. Must be fun. So looking ahead at yeah, I wouldn't imagine too much this year, but early next year, what sort of things are on your calendar where somebody might see you in person?
Oh, good question. I'm pretty sure I'll be at most of the Northeast work camps. So obviously work camp Austin, um, maybe Maine again, maybe Rhode Island again, depending upon when it is in the calendar year. Um, I really do try to make it to everything I can in the Northeast.
Mhm.
I'm going to be at LoopConf. I'm going to, I don't know. I don't have a lot of plans yet.
Hmm.
So I'd like to do at least one word camp outside of the US because I think that'd be really
Cool.
cool. I did
Yeah.
Montreal last year and I loved it. Or this past year.
Sure.
Um, Not that that's far,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess it's a lot of it's still up in the air as conference schedules get figured out. But
Yeah,
I'm always around in Boston, so
definitely. Boston. Yeah. This year was my first trip to Boston and we had the best time. It's a pretty cool
awesome.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, I like our camp. I think we do a good job.
Yeah, you certainly do. You certainly do. And it's a cool city. We had a lot of fun cruising around there. Is there anybody that you recommend that I invite on the show in the future?
Ooh, I think Tammy would be fun. Or
Tammy
if we're
Lister?
talking,
Yeah,
yeah, if we're talking design.
mm,
Um,
good choice.
I feel like there's a bunch of people, and now my mind is totally blank.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people.
Any of the Gutenberg folks. Um,
That's a good choice. I can focus on that. This is an appropriate time.
yeah, pretty much
Mhm.
anyone on that team would be fun to talk to. Even like if you have more than one person and do like, I don't know if you ever do more than just like one person at a time, but
We maybe did it a few years ago. I've been pretty consistent with like only new guests and only one for a couple years though.
yeah,
We'll we'll see. I can do whatever I want.
yeah. I feel like Gutenberg's probably the people to talk to. So anyone on that team,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the recommendation.
cool.
Anything else you want to share? Call to action, something to encourage people to do or see or check
Yeah.
out in the future, or maybe just follow you.
So I definitely think that if any of you are interested in contributing to core, you should join us on Slack. Best place to just kind of lurk, figure out what's going on, volunteer for things as they come up, and yeah, I'm at Mel Choyce like everywhere on the
Mhm.
internet, pretty much. So
Yeah.
consistent
Yeah.
there.
Pretty cool.
Cool. But yeah, this was fun. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, my pleasure, Mel. We touched like a fraction of the things that I would, in a perfect world, like to chat with you about. You're just involved in a lot of stuff. I really do admire your work, and yeah, just an interesting person with
Awesome.
doing cool stuff. So, thanks for all that you do. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for anybody watching this, and I'll probably be back next week with somebody else. Anyway,
Cool. Excited to see who we have next.
yeah, we'll figure that out. All right.
Yeah.